Hi guys, Kay here. This is my Q&A. So, I don't know what's going to take place in our Q&A today. I let whoever shows up direct me. So, could be that I just answer questions. Could be that I demonstrate how to do a specific skill. Could be that we practice. Who knows? Stay with us. See what's going to happen today. So we'll start. Let me just start with this. Is there anybody that has any questions about anything in particular? Anything that is going good or not going so good in your
Uh,
mediumship development? Yes, your goes.
okay, I have a question about identity of spirits and the transformative impact of death. And I think it's something I'll keep my question short because I really want to hear what you have to say. I think it's something a lot of people have maybe aren't clear about or have different opinions about. So my father came to me for the first time 3.5 years after his passing, and he gave me the evidence, so I knew it was him, but it wasn't him. You know, they give us memories so we can identify them. And then we think, oh, there's Fred. He just passed over, and I can't wait to see him again when I pass over, and we'll have a beer together, just like old times. Um, you know, it wasn't my father. It was his spirit, but it sure wasn't him.
Why do you think that? What's your reasoning?
What I experienced was pure love. I
Mm-hmm.
got the memories, but then what I experienced was just pure love. I didn't experience personality beyond the memories.
Mm-hmm. So you were feeling his his essence, his spirit essence, which is pure love. That's exactly what it is. But you should still be able to recognize the personality, but it could just have been. I mean, what made you think it was your dad to begin with?
He presented me with memories. So, that's what they do. They present us with memories we can use to
Okay.
identify them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to say conflate the memories with the entity that was giving them to me. The entity that was giving them to me wasn't the father I remembered.
Okay. So the essence of what you are feeling isn't the essence of the father you remember. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Um, and that can happen. That can happen because once we go to spirit, they, yes, the memories of who they were when they were here, it's all still very much intact. Those that we've known in this lifetime, it's all still very much intact. It's there, but the other part of them is there as well. That divine part of them, the spirit, the spirit part is there, and that is of pure love, even though they may not have portrayed that aspect of their soul in life. Does that, if that makes sense? So it could have been that you were picking up on the pureness of his spirit. And that's the part he wanted you to see, is that pureness of him, of this is who I truly am. I didn't show it, or I didn't always show it, or you didn't have the opportunity to experience it because of the choices he made when he was here on life. But that would be my um, thoughts on that, because I've had spirit communicators who have come and they present themselves um, in one way. And then in the middle of the reading, I suddenly become aware, or maybe even the sitter helps me to become aware. No, that's not who they were. Oftentimes, though, that was the person that they were outside of the home. They could be cordial, they could be nice, they could be all those things, but it wasn't within the walls of the home. That's been my experience with those spirit communicators. So they show me the one side because that's the good side. And then it starts to unfold. Oh, wait a minute. It's different. It's different at home. So, and I've had that as well with spirit communicators who had not split personality, but I don't know what the diagnosis would be. Maybe bipolar or something along those lines, some kind of chemical imbalance there. And they show me one side, but the other side of them was, gloom and doom and depression. And, so it's what we feel and it's what they choose to show us. Does that make sense to you? Am I answering your question or no?
Absolutely. I wanted to hear what you had to say, Kate. Thank you.
That's just my thoughts on it. I could be totally wrong, but that's my thoughts and my experience on that. Because honestly, all of us that are living, we all have that true essence within us, and that part of us is pure love. When you feel it for the first time, it is pure. It's very, very pure. Nilu.
Hi, Kay. I have a question. I'm quite new into mediumship. Just about this is my 6th month. The reason I decided to improve my spirituality, etc., was because I lost 3 loved ones in 7 months, including my son.
Oh.
And I'm wondering if there is a way in which we can connect to our own loved ones. When I do practices, I try to see if I can connect to my son or any of my loved ones, but that doesn't happen. I can connect to other spirit communicators, but not to my own family. Is there a way I can learn? Or
I used to sit in the power and my granddad and my dad would show up. I was, granted sitting in the power to meet my guides and then they would show up because my guide wasn't ready to show himself to me, I guess. I don't know, but they would show up. So you can sit in meditation. There are lots of guided meditations out there to help you. I think I have one on my YouTube. And it's kind of like sitting in the power in a way, but your intention is to have your loved ones come and sit with you and be with you. So that and even just normal guided meditations, you can do that as well. You just have to be it'll come. Just relax into it. Just relax. But it can work. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm so sorry for all your losses, Carly. I can't imagine. 3 in 7 months.
Yes.
Yeah. Bless you.
Hello, I'm very new to you. I got on my phone after doing some work and this is what popped up. So I'm like, okay, I'll jump on. So I've been practicing in circles for a while now, but I feel like all of a sudden everything's just quiet. So I know that does happen quite often to people. So what do you feel that might be? Why does that happen to people, to mediums?
It's the journey of your soul. That's what we're doing. So one of the benefits of the journey of our soul is we can awaken this aspect of our soul that allows us to work on a psychic or a mediumistic level, right?
Mhm.
So I lost my train of thought. So it is the power of the soul, the journey of your soul. So it's that going within, getting to know your true spirit, that which is what we were just talking about,
Mhm.
the true essence that's connected to your divine creator. So it's getting to know that and awakening that aspect of your soul that holds your power, and your power all is here in your solar plexus,
Mhm.
and that's where your spirit within is as well. But the more you go within and sit in the quiet, the more that aspect of your soul can awaken. And the more that you practice and use those qualities of your soul, the better, because it's like exercise. You're just working that aspect there. So it does go quiet sometimes. And then sometimes you'll feel like you're in a rocket. You're just going so fast you can't keep up. It's crazy like that. You never know. And everybody is different and unique. And my journey may not be anything like your journey. And it's like a box of chocolate.
Good analogy.
You never really know what you're going to get or what's going to happen next. I called it the roller coaster because I was up and down and, moving and shaking. And then I was, felt like I was in quicksand. Couldn't move, couldn't do anything. So it's just stay with it, sit in the silence, sit in the power, and keep going. Because even, I will say this too, you guys, even when you think you're not making any progress whatsoever, you're just probably still making progress. You just don't feel it, notice it, or see it. That's it. Because
Mm.
I believe that the spirit world is always working with us behind the scenes, helping us. So I think we're always making some kind of a progress, even when we feel like we're in quicksand. I really do.
Thank you.
And sometimes they slow us down for other reasons that are that we are unaware of. There could be a reason for them that it's slowing down for you right now. Really good question, Joe.
I just wanted to piggyback on something for Nilu, and that is, Nilu, first of all, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry about your son too. As Kay has heard me say many times, and most of you have too, I don't have a sense of energy for the most part. And so when I'm practicing mediumship, it's kind of on blind faith. And then after I'll step out and say something, not knowing if it's my mind or spirit, and then I get goose flesh, and I realize sort of retroactively, it's been spirit. It's kind of that kind of thing. But with my daughter died several years ago, and I talk to her all the time, and she comes through. Many times I'll be sitting and I'll invite her, and she appears, but again, it's on faith. But one of the things that helped me tremendously was a professional medium, saying to me long time ago, you might think you're making up what she's saying to you because it sounds like your own voice, but it's going to sound like your own voice. So then I just started trusting that she was responding to my dialogue with her. And the other thing I do is I ask her for signs. We all the time. And she sends me signs, very specific signs, or sometimes just a sign I'll recognize. So I think it all weaves into the mediumship piece, but I just wanted you to have that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I might add that Brooke has a beautiful book that she wrote about
Okay.
her journey with her daughter called Emilia. So
Oh,
I highly recommend it.
okay. I'll write it down. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Kay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Hi, Julie and Christy.
I have a
Yes.
question, Kay.
Yes.
Okay. My question is how to get a more clearer picture when you have when you're I belong to a development circle, and like the other day there was a man that I could see and I could describe him to the suit that he was wearing, etc. And his physical attributes, but I couldn't get beyond that. And sometimes I feel like I'm rushing things too much and not, because I'm sure they know I'm a beginner and I'm learning. And maybe perhaps I'm not being patient enough, but it would be, how does one get to where you just you get more, so to speak? I'm just wondering why I couldn't get any more, and maybe again it's me being impatient, or maybe that process comes in time. So yeah.
So you saw your spirit communicator and you were able to give an accurate descriptor of who you had, but then nothing else was coming. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, nothing else was coming. Normally I can, hear. And so it was nothing else. It was just that, and I couldn't get beyond that. And I've had that happen a few times lately. And there's other times where it goes freely, and then it moves from one scene to the next. But so I'm wondering, how come I get that much and I'm not getting this much?
Yeah. So that's that roller coaster. Oops. That's that roller coaster that I was referring to. So you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, down, up, down. You never know. It's a power thing, probably. You're not getting into your power, strongly every time that you give your reading. So when you're in your power and you've got a nice power going, that power is what creates that channel for your spirit communicator to come in and get close to you, because we want them to come in and we want their energy to mesh with ours, blend, so that we almost become one ball of energy. And it's when we allow them to do that, our energy then has all these little receptors in it, and our receptors begin to become aware of all these life experiences that spirit communicator had in life. So we want that good blending, but we have to have our power raised up high, and we want it to expand outwards. Fill the room, go beyond the room, go to the stars, and go as big and wide as you can, but go up. You've got to go up. That's key. If you stay here, you're going psychic. So we want to push it up and out for the spirit world. So if your power is not strong, then it's closer to you, and there's nowhere for spirit to come. So therefore, we just become aware of them. We still know they're there, and we may get bits of information, but it's very sporadic, doesn't come easily. We might be snatching, so that's what happens. So if your connection's not strong, look at your power, and then just visualize. For me, I just take a deep breath. I take a drink of water, take a deep breath, And as I breathe in, I'm pushing my energy, visualizing it as well. I start at the base chakra and I move my energy up and I step into it again, moving it out. So you just play with it until you find what works for you. I've tried many different things over the years to get me back into that power. It's normal for our power to drop sometimes when we're first starting. It's almost a given. It's going to happen because you're still trying to figure out, what am I doing? You're still trying to figure out how did that just happen? You know, and every time we go into the brain and we think, it pulls our energy back close to us. So every time our energy comes in, spirit steps back. So then we got to push it back out. Spirit will come back in. So it's a game of learning about your energy at that point and your power.
Super.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Good. Brooke.
That's really helpful because Carol asked something that I get stuck with a lot. And along that same line, when I start, I usually get an image of a person. I mean, that's my starting point generally. And I don't know, I was doing an exercise with someone, I don't know, a teacher or whatever, and the assignment was not to use any physical descriptions. And it made me very gun shy of doing that, even though a lot of times my physical descriptions are on. And, you know, so then I've sort of disregarded them, but a lot of times the image just doesn't move. I mean, how best to handle that? Because how can I mean, I can always put out, well, this person was, you know, a tiny little old lady, you know, because she looks very diminutive to me, very small. And then my clairsentience might kick in and say, but she was not frail. She was a strong lady. I mean, I get that that's the clairsentience kicking in. But, you know, the fact that she was a tiny little lady is an identifier oftentimes for the sitter, because they might have had a huge grandmother and a tiny grandmother. I mean, how do you know when to use physical descriptions and when not? I have no sense of how to go with that.
Yeah.
So then I stopped entirely, but then, you know, I was getting nowhere. You know, so.
Yeah. So what happens when we get those clairvoyant images? So first of all of your information goes through your clairsentience, all of it, and it's there at your clairsentience. That's the core of your being, right there in your belly. So that's where the spirit resides. That's where your soul is. That's where all your power is. Your clairs, all of that is right there. So any information that comes in goes through that clairsentience first. So your clairsentience is the first thing that picks up the information. Now, a lot of times, especially if you're clairvoyant, I mean, I was extremely clairvoyant when I started. Didn't know what that was. I didn't know what any of those clairs were. But it just would bypass the clairsentience and move up, and there would be these images, and it would just be a rolling movie in my head, right? But your images come to help you to understand what it is you're feeling in your clairsentience. And all of those images are created within your mind. So an image that you get, let's say, for example, if my dad were to come through for you, the image that is created, that comes in through your clairsentience, bubbles up, and it uses your mind to create an image that is like my dad. You may get general information, dark hair. You know, you might get general information, but the image that you see of my dad may not look anything like my dad, but you'll get the gist of him. Does that, if that makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had people many, many times show me their loved one, and I'm going, that is that happens because they get as close, they get it as close as they can. But they might be able to get the color of the hair, the length of the hair, the eyes, the ears, the something about that face might come in. I tend to stay away from physical descriptions. I don't know why. I just do. I tend to stay away from them. I only use physical descriptions if it keeps coming back at me. And at this point in my development, I don't see spirit communicator. I see the smile. I might see the eyes. I might be drawn to the hands. I'm drawn to specific parts of that communicator. So I know that if I'm being drawn to a certain part of their body, there's a reason why I'm being drawn to that aspect, right? So then, you know, if I'm drawn to the hands, then I'm I'm turning those hands over. I'm looking at the hands. Why am I drawn to the hands? And it may not be a physical thing that I can see. I might have to use the clairsentience to feel it. Why are you showing me my hands? Oh, I can feel it now. Your hands were used to make wood. You used wood. You worked with wood. I can feel, you know, the shaving of wood, the carving of wood. And then that might produce another image to show me, oh, you made toys out of wood. You see how that works. So as far as when do I use it, it's like that. If I were to see the whole person, which rarely happens anymore, I don't know that I would describe them unless I needed to. If I feel it's really needed intuitively, I know I need to describe. Like, for example, you've got a grandmother who's tiny, and your sitter's not quite sure which grandmother you have because personalities are similar. The way they live their life is similar, might be similar. Then I might say, I would say, well, you would understand one grandmother was tiny and one was not. I've got the tiny one. That's when I would use it because it's going to make a difference.
This is hugely helpful. Thank you so much. I mean, this is really helpful.
Good. So, you know, sometimes you might be drawn to a tattoo. You might be drawn to a limb that's missing. You know, those are all very identifiable things that are going to set people apart. You know,
I've had that. I had that yesterday where I was drawn to this woman's hands, you know, at one point in time. So I just sat with her hands and I saw all these brown spots on the back of her hands. And I saw that they were very tiny, you know, very thin hands. But had I stayed with it, I got the sense it was telling me she lived into old age. I mean, there were age spots and,
yeah,
you know, and time was running out. But I think if I'd stayed with it, I probably would have sensed what she used them for, you know, like some sort of handiwork, or it would have given me more. But that's really helpful.
You know, I just remember I was given a reading to a friend of mine. We trained together, and she was a hoot. This lady, she was from Ireland, and if you have Irish friends in Ireland, they're very fun. They're very fun people. They're always having fun, singing and all of that. And they tend to have big families. And I was giving her a reading, and I believe it was an aunt that came through. And you know, I knew I had lots of people, and and I was working with this aunt. I was like, I need something to distinguish who you are. Which aunt are you? And all of a sudden, I saw like one of the front teeth just pop out like this out of her mouth, and she was grinning. And I'm like, it would be the aunt that has a tooth that she can pop out at the front of her mouth. And she just cracked up laughing. And she said she'd go to the pub and she'd get drinking, and all of a sudden she put her tongue up there and flicked that tooth out. It was connected in some way. So she could pop it out and then bring it back in. I'm like, that's the aunt that I have. So that's a good example of when do you use the physical description, right? Because all of her aunts were short and round. So I couldn't use that. I couldn't use that. But when I saw the tooth, I was like, she has something with her tooth. It's popping out. And she goes, yes, that narrows it down. Yeah. So that's when I use physical descriptions. Now, when we first start out, physical descriptions usually is the first thing we get. And so we'll give a physical description. And I think that's okay, because we're taught when we first start out, give what you're getting. Well, that's what I'm getting. So you're going to give it. But you'll find that as you move through your development, you'll find that you'll get that physical description, and then you'll add in your clairsentience, or you'll ask for something more practical, and it'll come, and you won't have to rely on that physical description so much. And the reason why one reason why I don't use physical description so much is I was trained to be a platform medium. So if you're working with 100 people or 200 people in an audience, physical description is going to get you in a bind. It's going to get you in a bind real quick. So I just have the, I think I put this in my book, the Batman. Over there, everybody's Nana in England, or Nana, or they say Nana. But I saw this meme came across when I was learning about this, and I saved that meme. But it's like rows of grandmothers, and they all look alike. So, and it just hit me, and I was like, that's why. Because if I was describing this grandmother in a room full of 200 people, half of them would raise their hand. It wouldn't work, because they all have short hair, graying hair, glasses. They all kind of look the same in general when you use those descriptors. So, I would never describe a grandmother in a room of 200. Unless it's a grandmother who's not the norm. I did have a grandmother once who showed up in a church service, of all places. This grandmother, probably the only time she's ever been in church. She was a hoot. And, I grew up, part of my childhood anyway, I grew up in the South. So, everybody chews tobacco and, those kinds of things. Even women sometimes will, I would see women chewing. But in England, I never even saw it in the stores. I don't think they have it over there. I don't think anybody does that in England. But this woman comes up, and she's got a big wad of tobacco in her face. I mean, it's big. And I'm looking, and I'm going, she got tobacco in her mouth. I'm doubting myself. I am really doubting myself. And I saw her spit. And I just went with it. And I said, I've got somebody's I've got well, first I said I got a lady here who chews tobacco. And this family was sitting on the front row and they all just started laughing. They knew exactly who I had. I didn't even know they had it in that country. I'd never seen anybody with chewing tobacco, much less a woman. But she was a hoot in that church service. Every other word was not good in that communication. Yeah. So I did use that physical description because that's very unusual. That's kind of unusual in America too. How many women do you know that choose tobacco? You go in the back country, maybe, but most women don't.
Hi, Kay.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. This is Dorothy. My son passed away. Thank you for sharing that story. That was really neat. My son passed away June 3rd, 2022. And I actually became a medium over it. It kind of exploded me. It was scary. Then I started seeing patterns or pictures, and I don't know, I was drawn to doing mediumship, which is going quite interesting. It really makes me feel connected with my son, and also I love the experience that I get when other spirits come in, because they're very loving, and it just sort of helps me get through the day. I'm planning on moving though, like from this home that I've been in for over 20 years. And my son passed away in the home, and I feel his presence all the time. Sometimes it's coolness. Sometimes he'll touch my toe, like I used to pinch his toe when he was watching TV in his room. Then sometimes he'll touch my pinky finger where we used to do the pinky thing. I'm just wondering if I'll be able to have his presence at my new home that I'm hoping for, or will he stay here?
Yeah. First of all, I'm so sorry to hear that about your son.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, your son is with you. He's not connected to that house. He's connected to you. And
Oh,
wherever
travel.
wherever you go, that's where he will be.
Okay, so he won't like stay stuck here at all.
Yeah,
I kind
no.
of see him as a genie where they click their fingers and they're here and they're there. Because sometimes I see his hologram. I used to see hologram in my car side. So I thought, well, he can't be confined to here if I see him like his hologram outside, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting how the spirit world works. They can be in many places and communicate with many at once.
Oh, great.
So they can be anywhere, and your thoughts will draw them to you. So there, yeah, and the spirit world, if for me, I always thought, the spirit world was way, way, way up there above the clouds somewhere. But it's not. The spirit world is all around us. It's all around us. So it's wherever you are, your loved ones, they'll always know where you're at, and they'll always be able to come to you. Always.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. So you don't think there won't that there'll be any lingering feelings here?
Well, you have residual energy that may stay in that home. Absolutely. The residual energy is just the imprint of energy that stays wherever you've been. And it's possible that your son might visit that home every once in a blue moon, but honestly, your son's going to be more concerned about being with you and family
Yeah,
than
because I hear him in
than the
my
house.
head. I hear him in my head. And then
Yeah.
sometimes I lose the connection, like we talked telepathically, and sometimes I lose the connection. And then sometimes if I'm really negative, the negative stuff will come in. Does that make sense?
What do you mean?
Well, not being negative, but it's like if I'm really having a bad day and I'm kind of grumpy
Yeah.
and don't read something spiritual that day, it's like my day doesn't go that great and don't have the
Yeah.
great connection with my son.
Yeah. Well, we create our own reality. And so if your mood is not in the right place, you know, your connection may not be as strong as what it would be normally. So my mom and dad are around me all the time, but I don't always feel them. It's just that when I need to feel them, I'll feel them.
Right, you just know that they're there. You
I
don't have
know it.
that spiritual hug every second.
Yeah. 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 And I might get a little like a notice. It's like a knock knock on the door kind of thing. But like an image of my dad might just flicker through my mind real quick. And then I'll stop and become aware. And I'll go, "Oh, Dad, you're here. Hi, what you doing?" You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Sometimes, yeah. So we can connect with our loved ones. Um, the easiest way time to connect to them is when we become very quiet within. And once we become quiet and we still the mind, and if we think about our loved ones, they will come. And then you may be able to feel them. And honestly, I don't always feel my mom and my dad, but I know they're there. So that claircognizance comes in. My dad has a sign that he always gives me, not always, but a lot, especially if I'm not paying attention. It's his way of hitting me over the head, I guess, in a fun way. But I'll smell, just very briefly, I'll smell cigarette smoke. He was a heavy smoker, and nobody ever smokes in my house. It's not allowed. So if I'm in my house, if I'm in anywhere and it's just me, there's no cigarette smoke around me. I don't tolerate that. So I'll know that's my dad immediately. "Oh, Dad, you've been trying to get a hold of me. Okay." You got my attention now. Because I don't always pay attention.
well, that's wonderful that you have those experiences too. I
Yeah.
have them too. I just don't want them to go away. Um, yeah, but
Yeah, as long as you are aware that, that your loved ones, I don't think your loved ones will ever go away. But I do believe that when we get busy in life, we don't always notice them. Or if we're, um, going through a hard time, we might not always notice them.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I wasn't feeling great, my son came and gave me some Kentucky Fried Chicken, like a hologram, and we ate it together. Or
Huh?
when I was really having a tough day, like I just had to almost collapse. He kind of put a blanket over me.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
I had to do all the shoveling outside,
Yeah.
I was really fragmented and grieving so bad. I saw him come out with like a big motorized snowblower that we don't own, and he's just waving and making me laugh.
Yeah.
But they can,
Yeah.
like, I call him Frosty the Snowman. They're like, they're so magical. You put the hat on them and away they go. But a lot
Yeah.
of people can't see it, but I can see it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been kind of working on my third eye. That's
Yeah.
why I don't want this connection to leave. I'm just learning how to have a new relationship. Um,
Right.
which is before I told my son, there's no way I can get through this. But then it's getting better now, like this new relationship. It's a new way of communicating.
It is a new way, absolutely. And it's listening to that gut instinct, listening to that little voice in your head. And like Brooke, I think it was Brooke that said it. It, it when we hear spirit, it's usually the sound of our voice. It's not like, you know, that we hear their voices. It's like hearing our own voice or the images that come through unexpectedly. But when you are feeling sad or just, you know, down in the dumps kind of thing, I mean, I know I do this. I'll just call in my family and just say I could use some company. And I do, like you said, Dorothy, almost feels like they come and just wrap their love around me. It feels like a blanket of love as I sit there. And my mood changes quickly because I feel that pure love from spirit. And it's a beautiful, beautiful uh, thing.
We're
So
very blessed. Actually, all of us are
yeah,
like
absolutely.
being mediums. I think, you know, we're
Yeah.
lucky that we do get something instead of nothing.
Yes. Uh, hang on one sec, Eleanor. I just noticed somebody
Oh,
just reading this question in the chat box. So she's asking about when she's outside meditating in the sunshine, when she opens her eyes, it feels like she's seeing orbs or auras, circles in the trees, hovering over the birds or just in the sky. It could be that it could be that you're seeing orbs. Not very many people see orbs subjectively like that. But it's possible. It's definitely possible that you could be seeing the auras of the birds, auras of the trees. Um, it's very, very possible. Absolutely.
um, your opinion on this? I was doing a reading for somebody, and they didn't want who was coming through to come through. They didn't want to talk to that person. So I felt like I was really struggling to connect with spirit at that moment. Could that be the fact that they didn't want to talk, the sitter didn't want to talk to that person? Or okay. Yeah, what's your idea on that?
Well, some people don't want to talk to somebody because they didn't have a good relationship with them.
Mhm.
And you know, we kind of honor that. Um, sometimes they don't want to talk to that person because they have one other person in mind that they really want to talk to. And so they
Mhm.
reject everybody else because they only want the one kind of thing. So,
Okay.
yeah. So,
So so are you saying that I was getting evidence? I felt like I was getting evidence, but they didn't want to take it. So maybe
well,
hopefully spirit would
did
move
they
on. Or
understand? Did they understand the evidence?
after he kept saying no, 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 no. And then he's like, well, I could have taken that. I could have taken that, and I could have taken that for somebody that they didn't want to talk to.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Before you start with the reading, would you say, something about that? If there's somebody that you don't want to hear from, and it sounds like I'm bringing that person through for you, let me know so that we could kind of.
Well, sometimes what you can do is, this is how I was trained is I don't do this. I forget half the time. I forget to do it because you get in that tunnel vision when you start. Well, I do anyway. But you can always just, give a bit of information, establish who you have, and just say, "Are you happy for me to continue on with this communicator?"
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So, but you will get them where they really want somebody else, unfortunately. But I always just acknowledge the spirit communicator. I acknowledge them, um, and just say, "Well, you do understand who I have here, right? Would I just want you to be aware that this person has come in, um, to chat with you. If you're wanting somebody else, I'll be happy to send them, have them step back and see who else is here.
Okay, that's, yeah,
Yeah.
good
I'm
advice.
not gonna force them to have, you know, for all I
Yeah.
know, that spirit communicator could have been an abuser. And we don't want to trigger the sitter. If the sitter's not ready to face that abuser, we don't want to trigger them. So I still acknowledge that spirit communicator was here, but then I kindly asked them to step back.
Okay. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you so much.
Well, we'll stop there, and thanks a lot. Hope to see you guys next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.